You live in a world that does not care whether you live or die. A world built for other things, for tusks and horns and claws, for thick hides and deep roars. The wind does not pity you, the cold does not flinch. Before we start, let us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always so interesting to see where our listeners are tuning in from. Go ahead and dim the lights, turn your screen brightness down, and let the world around you dissolve just a little. Because tonight, we are diving into how humans first learned to kill large animals. If you want to support this channel or want to watch more of these sleepcore history documentaries in the future, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. No pressure. Okay, now settle in and imagine this. You wake each morning to hunger. Not the kind that makes you think about snacks or dinner. The kind that gnaws slowly, like teeth behind your ribs. The kind that makes your thoughts sluggish and your limbs shake as you try to stand. And yet you stand. Every day you stand. Your world is made of limits. The trees mark your shelter, the river your boundary. Beyond those, the plains open into a place of danger and possibility. But the giants walk there. You see them from the edge of the woods, silhouettes against the morning frost. Aurochs, the size of small boulders, with horns like crescent moons. Mammoths, whose shaggy coats glitter with dew, their footsteps deliberate and eternal. Giant elk with crowns of bone. They do not run from you. They do not fear you, because they don't have to. You are not a lion. You cannot leap or bite or tear. You are not a bear. You have no fur thick enough to keep the mountain knights at bay. You are not an eagle or a snake or even a wolf. You are slower than your prey, weaker than your predators. What are you then? You are something unfinished, but inside that unfinished shape, behind your wide eyes, inside your calloused hands, something has started to burn. Not just fire, though yes you carry that too, tucked in a clay bowl, or wrapped in glowing moss inside a horn. No, this is a different flame, the kind that makes you stare at the stars and wonder what moves them, the kind that makes you follow a wounded animal across a frozen plain, not for safety, but for hope. Your people gather near the fire at night, huddled in the orange breath of it. Your mother tends the embers, your brother carves meat from a bone. Someone sharpens a stick with a stone flake, turning it in slow circles. You sit beside the smoke and listen to the silence. Every crackle is a voice, every ember a whisper. Someone will speak, maybe, if they know the right words. Or maybe they will just point up into the dark at nothing. And you will all understand. You were not born into a time of peace, and your ancestors did not inherit a world tamed by tools or towers. They were born in the shadow of beasts, in the echo of howls. They did not rule the world, they survived it, and sometimes only barely. A lion's paw print is fresh near the riverbank. It dwarfs your own handprint. Your cousin found the print this morning, crouched beside it like a hunter beside a kill. He did not touch it, he simply stared. Then he stood slowly and backed away. You watched him do it. He did not run. Running is for prey, you've learnt that. Still, you cannot survive on berries and luck, not anymore. There are too many mouths to feed, and not enough fallen carcasses. The wolves take the good bones, the vultures take the rest. If you want meat, real meat, warm and dripping, with fat to melt on the tongue and marrow to feed your brain, you will need to do something your ancestors never dared. You will need to kill something that does not want to be killed. The thought is terrifying. It lodges like a splinter in your ribs. But it's also something more. It stirs your blood. It flickers behind your eyes like the reflection of firelight. It makes you wonder, what if we could? What if we could bring one of them down? Not just the wounded or the dying, but one of the strong, one of the giants. The idea is almost too big to speak aloud, so you don't. But you start to notice the way others look too. The way their eyes follow the herd tracks. The way they linger when a mammoth bellows in the distance. The way your people's silence is filled with watching. The earth was not made for you, not at first. It was carved by glaciers and clawed by ice. Shaped by creatures heavier, older, more certain. But you are not just bone and hunger. You are firewalker. Pattern seer, patience maker. You wait, you learn, you imagine. And imagination, more than muscle, more than teeth, is what makes you dangerous. You begin to plan. At first it's just a feeling, that a certain spot near the ravine might be more than just a place to pass through. That a narrowing of trees might become a trap, if used correctly. That 5 people moving as one are not just a group, but a force. Your elders do not say yes or no. They nod or grunt or frown. But in the days that follow, the questions come in different shapes. Could we get closer? If the wind is right, could we make the spears longer? Could we drive it somewhere with no escape? No one says the word hunt. It would feel too final, too bold, but it is there, hiding in your breath, settling in your bones. One day soon, you will try. And on that day, for the first time in the long memory of your kind, the giants will not be safe. Not because you are strong, but because you are small, and you are thinking. The idea does not vanish. It follows you through each passing day like a second shadow, even as you go about the tasks that have defined your life, gathering kindling, chewing roots to soften them, fetching water in a hide pouch heavy on your back. The thought waits behind every motion. It lives in the shape of hoof prints near the riverbank, in the broken branches where a herd passed days earlier, in the long gouges in the mud where something huge lay down to rest. The world is full of signs, and now you're learning how to read them. The adults don't speak often. Their words are sparse, like tools that dull with use, but their silences are not empty. You watch your uncle press 2 fingers to the ground and sniff the wind. You watch your sister step lightly across a frozen patch of dirt, testing it with her toes before committing her full weight. These are the ways you're taught to see, not through lessons, but through imitation. Every movement, every pause, is a sentence in a language older than words. For many seasons, your kind did not hunt large animals. You waited for death to find them first. When the lions feasted and moved on, you approached with sharp stones and careful hands. You learned to peel skin from bone, to scoop the rich, blood-warm marrow from the hollow shafts, to strip tendons and organs and fat while the crows circled above you. You scavenged not out of cowardice, but necessity. There was no shame in surviving on what the world left behind. But something has changed. It began slowly. A cut of meat left out by the cats, still steaming in the morning frost. A carcass found untouched, frozen too quickly for the scavengers to notice. You learned to arrive sooner, to follow the lions from farther away, then to predict where the dying would fall, then to guess which animals were weak before they collapsed. Each success fed not only the body, it fed something more dangerous: confidence. One evening, as dusk sinks its cold fingers into the skin of the land, your small group gathers by the fire. It is not a campfire, as the future will know it. It is a shallow bowl of coals, in a pit lined with ash, surrounded by stones to hold in the heat. The smoke stings your eyes, but it wards off insects, spirits, and memories that are harder to name. The elders sit close, their faces drawn and cracked like tree bark. The young sit farther out, where the darkness begins. The space between them is filled with silence and watching. A figure approaches, dragging something long and heavy behind them. A limb, not human, a leg, freshly severed at the joint, thick with matted fur and blood. A reindeer. The kill is not complete, but it is close. There is no pride in the face of the hunter, only exhaustion. But still, this is different. The animal did not die on its own. It bled under human hands. And now you see, it can be done. They talk about it later, in fragments. How the animal stumbled after crossing the river. How it broke its leg in the rocks. How 3 people circled, and one threw a stone, and the other stabbed. Something is stirring among the group. Not ambition, not yet, but recognition. The first flickers of a plan. The next days are spent in observation. You go out with the older boys and trail a herd from the tree line. They don't know you're watching. Or maybe they do, but they do not care. The mammoths are too large to be afraid. The aurochs move like boulders with eyes, but among them, calves stumble. The old fall behind. You begin to see it. The difference between strength and vulnerability. The way an animal favours one leg. The way another doesn't raise its head as quickly. The herd is a wall, but even walls have cracks. You begin to walk differently, no longer aimless. Your footsteps fall lighter. You begin to mark the wind, test the slope of the hills, note the places where you might hide. A fallen log, a rocky rise. The topography becomes a map, not of travel, but of opportunity. You are not yet a predator, but you are learning the outlines of the hunt. One afternoon, rain slicks the valley and fog clings to the ridges. You crouch behind a cluster of stones, soaked and shivering, but unmoving. Down below, a wounded reindeer limps along the marsh. Its leg drags. Its head dips with every step. It has been marked not by humans, but by nature itself. Still no one moves. Your people watch. You grip a long stick sharpened to a dull point and feel your heartbeat in your fingertips. But the reindeer moves on. The moment is not right. You let it go. That is the lesson too. Restraint becomes part of the ritual. Not every weakness is a doorway. Not every chance is worth taking. To hunt is not just to act. It is to know when not to. The animals do not waste motion. Neither should you. When you return that night, wet and empty-handed, you expect disappointment. But there is only quiet nodding and hands extended toward the fire. The kill did not happen, but the learning did, and that is enough. Later, as you lie beside the embers, wrapped in a hide that still smells of the earth it once walked on, you watch a spark rise into the air and vanish. Your fingers twitch as if holding a spear. You close your eyes, and behind them, the reindeer moves. The herd moves. You move. In your mind, the chase continues. Tomorrow, you will follow again. And someday soon, the spear in your hand will not be only for imagining. The days begin to carry shape, not just hunger and sleep, not just cold and fire, but a new kind of rhythm. One built on watching, on whispering without words, on movement through the land with purpose. The old pattern, wake, scavenge, wait, has begun to shift. You still feel small, but now your steps have direction. Each morning, your eyes lift not toward the sky, but to the hills, to the distant tree line, to the fading shapes that move with deliberate weight. You're not the only one who sees it. The others have begun to follow differently too. You move in a line, spaced out but connected. A glance over the shoulder becomes a signal. A grunt means stop. A hand held low means silence. No one taught these things aloud. They emerged from necessity. This is how language begins, not with names for the stars, but with the shared urge to eat and to survive. The air is colder now, even in the light. The frost clings longer to the grass, and the animals begin to fatten and move in tighter bands. They sense what's coming. The deep cold is near. That's why you have to try. There may not be another season to learn this. You walk beside your brother. He carries 2 sharpened sticks, bound with sinew where the wood splintered. You carry one of your own, its point darkened by fire. It is not elegant. It does not fly. It must be driven forward by the full weight of the body. It is a tool made for closeness, for a kind of bravery that no one yet knows they possess. The plan, if you can call it that, is simple. You have watched the herd for weeks. There is a narrow gap between 2 stone ridges, near a shallow bog that the animals avoid. If enough of you can push and shout and flank, perhaps one will stumble. Perhaps it will not get back up. You reach the ridgeline before dawn. The mist hangs low in the valley. You crouch in silence and wait. The sound of hooves, many hooves, rumbles across the earth long before you see the shapes. The herd moves like a single breathing creature, each part responding to the others, each head twitching at the wind, at the birds, at nothing. They pass within reach, so close you can hear the steam from their nostrils. But no one moves, not yet. The signal comes not as a word but a movement, a rise of the arm from the elder crouched at the front. That is enough. You rush from the rocks. The others do the same, spreading wide, shouting in bursts, slamming sticks against stone, against bark, against your own chest. You are not loud enough to scare them. You are loud enough to confuse. That is what matters. The herd surges, hooves tear into wet ground. The sound is deafening. But one of them, the smaller one, the one you've marked, turns wrong. It slips toward the bog's edge and finds no purchase. It stumbles. You are moving before you realize. Your breath is a roar in your chest. Your arms burn with each step. The other's flank circling, driving it further from the safety of the herd. Its leg is twisted. Blood marks its flank. It tries to rise again, but the earth gives way beneath it. Now, you rush in. Your brother is first. He drives his spear into the side, but the point glances off bone. The animal kicks. He's thrown back. Another comes from behind and jabs toward the shoulder. A scream, not from the animal, but from the man. The spear breaks. The beast thrashes, flailing, half risen, half sinking. And then you are there. You drive your own spear low under the ribs, where the breath seems to live. You feel the resistance, then the slide. Warmth floods over your hands, thick and sudden. The animal groans. Its legs twitch. It does not rise again. There is no cheer, no cries of triumph, only breathing, heavy, fast, disbelieving. One man limps. Another has blood on his face, but not his own. Your hands are shaking. Your chest heaves, but it's done. The others gather around. One places a hand on the flank of the fallen beast. Another kneels, whispering something soft, something meant for the dead. The wind shifts. Birds begin to circle. It is not celebration, it is silence. It is respect, and it is survival. You begin to work quickly. The hide must be removed before the body cools too much. The meat must be cut, the organs separated. Bones for tools, fat for warmth. Every piece has value. Nothing is wasted. The kill is not just a moment, it is a beginning. You haul what you can back to camp. The others come to meet you, their faces tight with disbelief. A real kill, not an accident, not a gift from the cats. Your group brought it down. That night the fire burns higher than usual. The meat cooks slowly on flat stones. The smell carries through the trees. You chew with greasy hands, too hungry to savour, too stunned to speak. The children stare. The elders nod. No one says the word for what has happened, but you all feel it. You sleep with a full belly for the first time in many moons, and in the hours before dawn, as the fire dims and the cold returns, you lie on your back and stare at the sky. It feels different now, not smaller but reachable, as if the stars themselves watched you rise from the reeds with blood on your hands and decided they are not prey anymore. You close your eyes, and in the dark behind them, a new image forms, not one animal, a herd, not one spear, many. You are not done. You have only just begun to understand what it means to hunt. The blood has dried on your hands, but it has not left you. You can still smell it in your dreams. You can feel the weight of the kill in your arms, as if you're still dragging it through mud, through fog, through memory. Something shifted in you that day. Something irreversible, not pride, not joy, something quieter, a knowing. You no longer watch the animals as distant figures. Now you see them as puzzles, breathing, moving maps of muscle and instinct and mistake. You study the way they bunch before rain, how they space themselves when wolves are near. You begin to name their fear, not with words, but with rhythm, when they flinch, when they charge, when they turn away. You are not the only one who feels the change. The group has begun to gather differently, less scattered, less separate. There is a thread pulling everyone tighter now, a shared rhythm in the morning walks, a new patience in the watching. This is what follows the first true hunt, not just food, but formation, a group of bodies learning to act as one. The spears are changing too. The old ones were fire-hardened, quick to splinter, meant for thrusting. Good in a tangle, in close, but dangerous to the hand. Now the shapes are longer, straighter, some even balanced. You've learned that a spear with weight at the back and point at the front can fly. Not far, not yet, but farther than your arm can reach on its own. Your brother experiments with sinew, binding stone to wood. He holds it up for the elders to see. Awkward, crooked, but new. They nod without smiling. That is enough. You begin to throw. At first the spears land sideways, bouncing off bark, spinning into the grass. You laugh, then curse, then try again. You try with both hands, then just one. You try with a run, then from stillness. Each time the point gets a little closer to where you meant it to go. One day, the spear lands straight into the belly of a rotten log and stays there. The sound is dull and perfect. It feels like language. Not everyone joins in. The elders watch, wary. Some still believe the close kill is better, that the hand must feel the wound to earn the meat. But you're not trying to replace the old ways. You're trying to reach farther, to be safer, to be many, from a distance. Others begin to join. Children who once chased birds with sticks now throw at trees. Women who once carved the meat now hold spears and test their weight. The hunt is becoming a shared skill, not just for the strongest, but for all who are willing to learn. One evening, while the sky glows orange with the end of summer, you sit on a rock and carve a line into the dirt. Your cousin watches you. "If we stand here," you say, pointing to a bend in the line, "and they come through here," you pause. There are no words for angles or flanks, but you draw them anyway. You use your fingers to mimic movement. One group from the left, one from the trees, one behind. He nods. He sees it. This too is hunting. Not just with spears, but with thought. The next attempt is more than a test. You find a small herd of aurochs moving along a narrow ridge. On one side, a steep slope covered in brambles. On the other, a drop into a shallow basin. You move quickly, quietly. The wind is in your favour, the sun behind you. You remember everything. The calls, the spacing, the angles. It begins with a stone, thrown, not aimed, just enough to startle. The animals bunch and shift, their hooves skidding. Then come the shouts, the movement, the silhouettes rising from the grass like ghosts. You throw first. The spear flies wide, but it flies. The others follow. One of the animals bolts and tumbles into the basin. It does not die on the fall. You approach carefully. It is dazed, its flank torn. One leg bent wrong. It bellows low, eyes wild. This time, you do not wait. You move as a group. 5 spears rise. 4 strike. It is over in seconds. Later, while stripping the hide, you notice a cut along its back. Your cousin's spear. Not deep, but placed well. You show him. He nods once. It is the first time either of you has made a kill from afar. The meat is sweeter this time. Or maybe it's the memory that sweetens it. You sit by the fire and think about distance. How far the spear flew. How short the chase became. There was still danger, still blood, but not like before. You feel the kill less in your muscles and more in your mind. That night, someone asks a question. What if the spear could fly farther? The words are simple, but the silence after is long. Your brother begins binding a curved piece of wood to a flat shaft, trying to extend his throw. He calls it a helper, no other name yet, just a shape that feels right in the hand. It takes days to balance, weeks to trust, but when it works beautifully. The spear flies twice as far, driven not just by the arm, but by the bend of wood behind it. The others gather to watch. One of the elders grunts, almost a laugh. You call it something in your own head. The arm behind the arm. This is not just a tool, it's a leap. You dream of it that night. Not the throw itself, but the idea. That your reach is no longer bound by your own flesh. That something you make can carry your will across the space between life and death. It terrifies you, and it thrills you. The next day, you do not go hunting. You stay behind, carving, shaping, thinking, because now you understand. The spear is not just for killing, it is for becoming something more than what you are. And with it, the hunt is no longer a moment. It is becoming a mind. The arm behind the arm changes everything. It is not a weapon in the way a tooth is a weapon or a claw. It is not an extension of the body. It is something else entirely. A tool that turns you into something you have never been before. A hunter who does not have to risk being hunted. A mind that can make death fly. You don't have a word for leverage or stored energy or trajectory, but your body understands. You feel it in the tension of the wooden curve, in the weight of the spear as it rests in the groove. When you throw, it no longer feels like effort, it feels like release. Your people begin to change. No longer do you walk beside the herds, simply watching. Now you stalk, you map, you wait. No longer must you chase the wounded or corner the weak. Now you hunt the strong. You aim for the middle of the herd, not the edges. You aim for the heart of what once seemed untouchable. There is a hill not far from camp, where the land narrows between two ridges and the winds carry sound upward. From its height, you can see the plain stretch in all directions. Grass swaying in waves, clusters of trees, old trails baked into the dirt from generations of hooves. It is here that you begin to plan. Not just the next hunt, but the shape of the future. You are not alone. Others join you. They bring stones to draw in the dust. They trace paths with their fingers. They debate, not with words, but with gesture and silence and the shape of their eyes. One day, your cousin picks up a twig and breaks it. Then he picks up another and bends it slowly. Everyone watches. He throws the bent one farther. The meaning is clear. Flexibility matters. The group decides to try again. This time, it is not improvisation. It is choreography. You place scouts along the slope. You assign throws. You prepare fresh spears with new shafts, lighter and straighter. You time your approach with the wind, not against it. When the moment comes, it is not panic. It is practiced movement. The herd runs as it always does, but this time, they are funneled by sound and shape into a narrowing corridor. At the end of that corridor, your people, half hidden, half lit, armed with memory and reach. The spears fly. 2 animals fall. One limps away, bleeding. The others scatter, but the message is left behind in the dirt. We can strike from places you cannot see. You feel it in your chest that night. Not just satisfaction, but scale. You did not simply survive. You orchestrated the death of something larger than yourself. You and your kind, barefoot, soft-skinned, slow, now rule through coordination. You are a predator, not because of strength, but because of unity. The old ones still tell stories around the fire, though they speak more softly now. They talk of the time before spears flew, of hunts that ended in injury, in loss, in silence. They speak with respect, not bitterness. They know what you have made. They know it cannot be undone. You begin to see the land differently. Before it was background, where you walked, where you waited. Now it is part of the plan. A ridge becomes a watchtower. A river bend becomes a trap. A tree becomes cover. A rock becomes a marker. You no longer move across the land. You move with it. Some speak of building hides along the cliff's edge, shelters from which you can launch spears unseen. Others gather old branches, stacking them in half moons, primitive blinds that break the animal's line of sight. It is no longer just about speed. It is about patience, about illusion. The world watches you back. The animals adapt. They move faster when they smell you. They bunch tighter. They no longer linger near known trails. You notice this. You do not complain. Their evolution forces yours. One morning, you return to a clearing where a herd once grazed. There is only silence. The ground is trampled, but the herd is gone. You crouch low. You press your ear to the dirt. The ground still hums. You are too late, but only by hours. You follow. The trail leads over a hill, through reeds, down into a marshy basin. You see them, shapes in the mist, drinking at the edge. You do not rush, you watch. One slips and struggles to regain footing. The herd doesn't wait. It moves on. The one behind limps. You do not throw. You turn around. You walk back. The others are surprised. You explain with motion what you saw, what it means. They understand. Tomorrow, you will be ready. That next morning, before the light has returned to the full sky, your group moves out. Quiet, focused, no chatter, only breath and the sound of spears brushing against hips. You return to the basin. The limping one is there, alone. You circle, the others position at angles. You ready the atlatl in your hand. Your fingers are steady, your eyes fixed. The animal raises its head. It sees you, but you have already thrown. The spear flies, not arcing wildly, but slicing forward, fast and low. It strikes deep. The animal turns once, then collapses. The others cheer softly. No one runs in. You wait, always wait. You've learned that death takes time, that the body does not always fall when the mind leaves it. You watch, and when the stillness stays, you approach. It is the cleanest kill you've ever made. Later, you kneel by the animal's side. Your cousin touches its flank. Someone draws a symbol in the mud. A curved line, an X. It does not mean a letter. It means a moment. The hunt has changed again. You feel no joy, only awe. The spear has flown. The animal has fallen. And your mind has grown. Not wider, deeper. You think you understand danger. You've lived among it all your life. Nights filled with the sound of distant howls, eyes gleaming in the dark just beyond the firelight. The echo of a lion's roar rolling through the valley like thunder wrapped in muscle. But you haven't faced it like this. Not directly. Not with your whole body leaning forward and your breath coming shallow as you stare down something so massive, it turns the very earth into an instrument with every step. The mammoths are back. You see them first from the ridge. Shadows rising from the morning mist, their backs broad and sloping, their wool clumped with ice. They walk slow, but there is no hesitation in them. They move as if the land was carved for their feet, as if they've never once doubted their place in the world. One of them bellows, the sound bends the air, and for the first time you realise everything you've hunted until now was small. This isn't just meat. This is the mountain that walks. The others gather beside you, staring. No one speaks. One of the elders, the oldest of them, whose face has so many folds it looks carved, lets out a low breath through his nose and mutters something almost like prayer. You don't need to understand the words, you feel the meaning. This isn't just a creature, it's something ancient, something sacred, but still, it can be killed. The idea is not yours alone. You feel it pass through the group like a ripple, not bold, not eager, but there under the skin, the same feeling you had the first time you saw a wounded reindeer dragging its leg. Recognition. The plan does not form all at once. It takes days. You follow the mammoths from a distance, watching the way they move, the places they stop to drink, the paths they take down into the lowlands. There is one among them, slower, smaller, a female with a slight bend in her rear leg. Not wounded, but older. Her steps are measured, her pauses longer. She lags behind. The others protect her, but not always. You mark the places where the herd splits, where one half moves to forage and the other remains still. You watch how they respond to sound, to birds, to wolves. They are not stupid. They do not scare easily, but they do remember. They avoid places where the wind shifts wrong. They circle past old kill sites. They know what death smells like. You prepare, not just with spears, but with the land itself. You find a ravine, deep, narrow, lined with brush. You and the others clear the floor of sharp stones and scatter reeds to hide the earth. You mark escape routes. You carry water in advance. This is not just a hunt, it is construction, architecture born from desperation. On the morning of the attempt, the air is thin and silvered with frost. You move early, circling wide through the hills to where the herd slept last. You see them just beginning to stir, giant bodies rising from the grass, like mountains lifting from the earth. You wait until the moment is right, until the female drifts far enough from the others. And then you move, not fast, not wild, but precise. You come from multiple sides. The torches are lit not to burn, but to confuse. The smoke swirls in pockets. The mammoths turn, uncertain. You shout, you wave, you do not strike, you guide. The herd thunders forward, except one. She turns too late. The ravine swallows her. The fall is not long, but it is enough. She lands hard, on her side. One leg bends beneath her. She trumpets, not in rage, but in pain. The sound is sharp, almost human. It slices through you like ice. The others stop at the edge above, pacing, calling. But they do not climb down. They do not charge. They do not stay. They leave her. The kill does not come quickly. Even with the spears, even with your knowledge, it takes time. Her hide is thick. Her bones are vast. The first blow feels like striking a tree. You aim for the eyes, the mouth, the joints. She fights. Even on her side, she swings her trunk, kicks with her one good leg. One of your group is thrown back, coughing blood. But you continue, because you must. It ends when your brother drives a long spear through the throat, deep into where the breath rattles. She exhales a final plume of steam, and then she is still. You do not speak for a long time. You stand there, hands shaking, covered in sweat and blood. Around you, the others do the same. The fire burns low. The air hangs heavy with silence. No one cheers. You have killed something sacred, but you have also done something no one thought possible. The cutting takes 2 full days. The meat is vast, endless. The fat alone could feed your people through the worst month of the cold. The bones are dragged to the edge and stacked like fallen trees. The tusks are lifted by 3 people at a time and tied together with sinew. You do not waste a thing. The elders gather the skull and mark the ground where the mammoth fell. They press ochre into the soil, then smear it on their hands and faces. One draws a line from their heart to the earth. Another mimics the sound she made when she died. No one needs to ask what it means. The mammoth is not forgotten, and neither is what you have become. You are not just hunters now. You are something else. Builders of plans, movers of earth, makers of death that flies. Your hands hold not just tools but future. The world watches you differently now. The wind carries your scent, and animals change their paths. The birds fly wider circles. Even the wolves seem to keep their distance, because now the giants can fall. And the ones who brought them down walk upright, speak with their eyes, and dream of what else might be possible. The fire is no longer just for warmth. It has always lived with you, at the centre of the circle, at the heart of every camp. It has cooked your meat, dried your hides, lit your faces in the dark. But now you look at it differently, because now you've seen what panic does. You've seen what noise, smoke, and confusion can do to creatures 10 times your size. And you've begun to wonder, what if fire could kill? The memory of the mammoth doesn't leave you, the scream it made as it fell, the way the others turned away, the sound of bone hitting stone. These things echo, not in your ears anymore, but in your thoughts. You dream of them, not as nightmares, but as lessons. She was driven, not caught, and she died not just from force, but from being afraid. That is what lingers. Fear is a weapon. You begin to test. It starts with dry grass, bundled in loops, and tied with old sinew. A torch, but shaped to burn long. You carry one to the edge of the river, where the tall reeds grow. It catches fast. The fire leaps. The smoke curls black and fast and thick. The reeds crack and spit. You move back, watching. You feel no power, only possibility. The others see it too. There is a spot, not far from where the mammoths once grazed. A flat plain bordered by woods on one side, and a slow, winding gully on the other. It is dry this season. The grass brittle. The ground groans when you press it with your heel. If the animals move into the right place, if the wind turns just enough, you begin to prepare. You set the traps low, hidden beneath loose piles of dead grass. You lay trails of moss, dried and powdered, to carry flame like a whisper. You don't plan to burn the herd, you plan to break it, to scare it, to drive it into the gully where the spears can fly without risk. The waiting is the worst part. You crouch for hours, your body tight with stillness. The wind shifts, rises, dies again. The torches are wrapped and ready. The herd moves into place slowly, grazing with the casual arrogance that comes from size and repetition. They do not know yet. And then the wind turns. The flame catches with a sound like breath sucked in too fast. It runs low at first, licking the moss, then higher, leaping into the brittle grass. The smoke rises fast, too fast. It blots the morning light. It burns your eyes. The herd reacts before the fire even touches them. Their heads rise as one. They snort, they stamp, then they run. Not toward you, but away from the fire, toward the gully, exactly where you want them. They pour down into the narrow space, stumbling over each other, thick with confusion. The fire chases them from behind. You are already there, waiting, spears ready, not 1 or 2, but 10. You and the others throw together. The first falls with a spear in its neck. Another limps, then collapses. One stumbles into the mud and cannot rise. It is chaos, but it is controlled. When the smoke clears, the fire dies in the wet soil, and the sun filters back through the trees. There are 3 dead at your feet, not wounded, not stolen from another predator. Yours. You do not laugh, you do not sing, but something in your chest hums with strange electricity, because you didn't just kill, you used the land to kill for you. That night you sit by the fire and watch the flames differently. You reach out your hand, and though the heat pushes back, you don't flinch. You think about how it moved across the ground, how it obeyed you. Not completely, but enough. The elders are quiet. They eat the meat, but their eyes are far away. They have seen fire burn homes, burn trees, burn children. To use it in the hunt feels like playing with the bones of gods, but even they do not argue. The kill was clean. The smoke kept the predators away. The people eat well. Still the questions remain. How far can you push the flame before it turns on you? You begin to test in smaller ways. You learn to direct it with green branches. You dig shallow trenches to guide the smoke. You learn how fast it spreads depending on wind, on slope, on the season. Fire becomes not just a presence, but a tool, one that must be watched, respected, and sometimes feared more than the prey. It does not always go as planned. One day, the wind turns too quickly. The smoke blinds your left flank. A young boy runs too close and burns his leg. The hunt is abandoned. The animal escapes. The child lives, but with a new scar. You sit with him afterward, pressing cool mud to the wound, whispering words that feel like apologies, but sound like promises. You learn. You always learn. Later, when the fires are low and the stars hang like stones above you, you listen to the sound of the night differently. You realize something else. The fire does not just scare the animals. It scares your own fear. It gives you courage. When the woods creak with the weight of passing lions, you sit closer to the flame. When the cold leans in with its long fingers, you feel the warmth in your bones. When you close your eyes and see a stampede, you imagine smoke guiding them. You are not just lighting fires anymore. You are becoming fire. And now, the hunt is not a sprint, not a stab, not even a throw. It is a chain of events, a vision cast forward in time. It begins with smoke. It ends with blood. And somewhere in between you walk upright, covered in ash, smiling faintly, with the understanding that for the first time since the world began, the land itself has begun to answer your call. There are bones everywhere now, piled near the stream in neat stacks, arranged in circles around the fire, scattered beneath the trees where the children play, whittling them into toys and tools and charms. You've become a people of bone, of sharp edges and hollow centres. You carry them in your pouches, tie them into your hair, fasten them into your clothing. The land gives you beasts, and the beasts give you structure. But not just to eat, not just to build, to remember. It starts with the mammoth skull, too heavy to move, too sacred to bury. You return to it weeks after the hunt, its hollow socket still filled with silence. Around it, the earth is trampled and dark, as if the memory of the kill refuses to fade. One of the elders presses ochre into the bone, streaks of red like ancient tears. Another arranges stones around it. Someone murmurs a name, though it's not clear if they mean the mammoth or the moment. You realise then, you are not just hunters anymore. You are witnesses. Each kill leaves more than blood behind. It leaves a mark, a story that cannot be held, only remembered. And memory needs shape, so you begin to give it one. In the soft earth beside the gully, you scratch a spiral with a stick, the shape of the herd as it fled the fire. Beside it, a zigzag to mark the wind. These aren't words, but they aren't nothing either. The others come and look. One adds a curve, another adds dots. Soon, the ground becomes a map of things that no longer exist, but you can see them. The next time you hunt, you carry the story with you, not just in your mind, but on your skin. A streak of ash beneath the eyes, a mark of charcoal across the chest. Symbols that mean I remember, symbols that mean we are not blind. You aren't sure when you started doing it, but now it feels necessary, like washing or breathing. The younger ones begin to copy you, their faces smeared with soot before the hunt. One wears a necklace made from the knuckle of a giant elk, Another ties 2 fox teeth into a strip of sinew and calls it luck. They don't speak the word ritual, but they know what it is. You've entered a new kind of hunting, not just with tools or tactics, but with meaning. Because now, every kill matters, and not just because of hunger. The more you kill, the more you learn. About anatomy, about blood, about precision. You begin to recognize the spots that lead to a faster death. The gap beneath the ribs, the soft triangle between the shoulder and neck. You adapt, your spears become lighter, your throws more patient. You are still afraid sometimes, but it's a cleaner fear now. Not the panic of prey, the alertness of a creature with responsibility. One morning you follow a herd of wild horses into the highland fog. The grass is wet. The wind favours you. You move like mist, slow, though deliberate. There are 6 of you, spaced like ribs around the hill's curve. The horses don't know you're there. You pick the smallest, a yearling, strong but distracted. You throw from 30 paces. The spear lands, the horse falls. The others scatter. No fire, no noise, just calm, clean, intentional. When you kneel beside the body, you whisper something. A habit now. Not a spell, not a command, just a breath offered to the world, as if to say, I see you. Later you carry the meat home draped over your shoulders. The others come to meet you, and there is no celebration. Just quiet nods, firm hands on backs, food passed to mouths. The horse becomes soup, the bones become handles. The skin becomes shelter, the memory becomes story. At night, around the fire, you speak of it, not boastfully, but in detail. You describe the throw, the fall, the sound the horse made before it hit the ground. The others listen. They ask questions. They lean in. You are teaching and being taught. It becomes clear. The hunt is no longer just about food. It is your calendar, your ceremony, your map, your myth. You mark time not by moons or seasons, but by kills. The great elk, the 3 aurochs, the fire gully, the fallen mammoth. Each one etched into the brain like grooves in bone. And slowly, your group begins to change shape. You begin to gather not just around fire, but around memory. Someone paints lines on stone. Someone else scratches shapes into bark. The children start to reenact the hunts, with sticks and laughter, acting out the moment the spear lands or the fire spreads. The past has begun to live inside you. You are no longer just living in the present. You are building a past. And this, more than the spear, more than the flame, is what sets you apart from the animals you hunt. They fear. You remember. You try again. You pass it on. There is a weight in this, heavier than a mammoth's tusk. Some nights you stare into the fire and feel it pressing behind your eyes. A sadness, maybe, or something deeper. You remember the look in the mammoth's eye as it fell, the softness in the horse's final breath, the way the herd always turns back, once before it flees. You do not feel guilt, but you do feel the shape of the loss. And that is what makes you human. You hunt not only to live, but to learn. And in learning, you leave something behind. A trail not made of prints, but of meaning. A path for those who come after, who will walk among the bones and read them as you once read the wind. And they will know, here a hunter stood, and here a story began. The cold deepens. It comes not like a storm, fast and loud, but like sleep, quiet, creeping. One morning the river doesn't run. It holds still beneath a skin of glass. The wind bites harder. The trees groan under the weight of ice. The sun rises later, and it brings no warmth when it does. Even the birds grow silent. You have seen winters before, but this one feels different, heavier, hungrier. The animals are harder to find now. The herds have thinned or moved, pushing beyond the hills, where the wind never stops howling. The smaller prey dig deep, vanish into holes. Tracks are harder to follow. Meat spoils slower, but it comes rarer. Fire burns longer now, but you burn more to keep it alive. Still you do not break. You know more than you once did. You have stories now. You have tools. You have memory that walks beside you like a second body. And with it comes something else, something harder to name. Determination. You leave before dawn, wrapped in layers of hide stiff with frost. The air hurts when it enters your lungs, but your legs move forward, even as they tremble. You are not alone. Your cousin walks beside you. Behind you, your brother. Ahead, the silence. You move across old paths, ones worn thin by generations of hooves and feet. You follow the shape of the land, where the snow breaks differently, where the ice looks cracked just slightly, signs that something passed not long ago. Eventually, you see them. A small herd of reindeer, gaunt, slow. Their breath floats above them like ghosts. They're tired, like everything else, but still alive. You watch from the edge of the trees. The snow comes to your knees. You cannot run, not like before. The spears must be thrown from closer now. The wind cuts across your path. The sun reflects sharp from the ice. Everything is against you. But you stay. Because you've learned the oldest truth. Waiting is a weapon. One of the reindeer strays from the rest, nudging at a frozen shrub. Its ribs show. It limps slightly, favouring one leg. You glance at the others. No signal is needed. The knowledge is shared, carried in the eyes. You move, not fast, not loud, but certain. The snow muffles your steps. You rise like shapes from a dream. The reindeer sees too late. It stumbles, tries to run, but its legs betray it. You throw. The spear hits, not deep, but enough. The reindeer lurches, then falls. You do not cheer. You rush forward, finish what must be finished. The breath escapes its body in one long stream. Then silence. You sit back in the snow, chest heaving, watching the steam curl upward and vanish. Your hands are shaking, not from fear, from cold, from relief, from everything. You drag the carcass back through the snow, your footprints filling with ice behind you. It takes hours. The wind fights every step, but you return with food. And with food comes fire. With fire, survival. The others greet you with quiet nods. A few hands on shoulders, nothing more. But in the centre of the camp, a space is cleared. The meat is stripped, the fat saved, the bones set aside. You begin to cook, and while the meat simmers, the stories begin again. This time, the children listen not just with wide eyes, but with questions. How did you know where they'd be? What if the spear hadn't landed? What if they ran toward you, not away? You answer not as the child you once were, but as something else now, something older, the one who remembers. Later, a girl no older than 7 takes a stick and draws a circle in the snow. She presses 2 dots inside it, eyes maybe, or prey. She adds a mark for a spear, another for the tree where you hid. It doesn't look like much, but everyone stops to watch, because it is something more than a drawing. It is record. You crouch beside her and smile. You add a line for the wind, another for the sun, and now between you, the whole hunt lives again. Not in blood, but in memory. And memory, you've come to understand, is a kind of shelter. The reindeer feeds your bellies, but the story feeds your spirit. More nights pass. Colder still. You learn to sleep in clusters, your backs to the fire and to each other. The hides stiffen and crack if left unwatched. The firewood disappears faster than you can gather it. Still, you endure. One morning, you wake to find the snow higher than your head. The shelter nearly collapsed beneath the weight, but someone, maybe you, maybe your cousin, dug out the fire in the night, kept it alive. The coals still glow, a breath away from dying, but not dead. That is what matters now, not winning, enduring. When the winds howl, you press your ear to the earth, and you can hear it hum, soft like a song made of stone and time. The land does not speak with words, but it says this: you are still here. So you keep going, you track less, you trap more. Pitfalls dug beneath the snowline, snares of twisted sinew where the hares still travel. You bait them with frozen berries. Some work, some don't, but it is enough. One day the snow begins to melt, slowly, timidly, as if unsure. Drops fall from the trees like whispered promises. The river moves again, not a roar, but a murmur, and with it life returns. You see tracks in the thawing mud, hooves, paws. The trees stretch again, their limbs unclenching. The wind smells different, less like stone, more like moss, like the start of something. You sit beside the fire one evening, watching the last of the snow collapse from a branch, and you realize what you've built. Not just survival, a rhythm, a way, a memory of blood and warmth and pain and light, carried not in your arms, but in your people. In the girl drawing circles, in the cousin who watches the wind, in the bones buried beneath the ice, and the stories laid like offerings beside them. You look up, and the stars are still there. They've always been. But now, when you see them, you don't just see light, you see stories. And behind those stories, you see yourselves. The thaw is slow but undeniable. The ground softens underfoot. The rivers widen, swollen with meltwater, dragging broken branches and bones down from the hills. The sky sheds its grey skin and shows a gentler blue, though the wind still bites when it rises. The world does not turn warm all at once. It creaks open, inch by inch, as if waking from a long, heavy dream. You move differently now, no longer hunched against the cold, no longer rationing every motion like coin. Your legs remember what it feels like to walk without struggle. Your shoulders carry weight without pain, and with that return of strength comes something else, ambition. The hunger has changed. It's not just about eating anymore, not just about lasting one more night. You've seen what endurance brings. You've survived the worst of the ice. And now that the world has loosened its grip, you begin to wonder, what else is possible? You follow the herds again, but it's not the same chase it once was. You no longer move behind them in desperation. Now you move with foresight, with calculation. You've mapped their trails in your mind. You know the ridges where they pause, the fords where they cross, the places they avoid, and the reasons why. There is a bison herd you've been watching, 30 strong, heads low, shoulders thick with winter fur. They move like a wave, predictable, powerful, but slow to turn. You don't want one, you want two, maybe three. Enough to feed not just a family, but a people. The plan begins long before the kill. You mark the valley floor, where the ground turns marshy after rain. You walk it twice, learning where it gives under your weight. You dig trenches in secret, shallow, wide, filled with sharpened stakes. You cover them with branches, then with grass. The others help. Quiet, focused, no laughter this time. The tools are ready. New spears, longer, balanced, fletched with feathers now. Not for throwing by hand, but by a new tool. Curved, grooved, springing with energy. Some call it a lever. You call it an arm behind the arm behind the arm. When it works, the spear sails farther than ever before. A whisper in flight. A song made of force. You wait for days. The herd nears, then veers away. The wind turns wrong. You wait again. And then one morning, they arrive. The earth begins to tremble long before you see them. Their hooves strike rhythm into the soil. Their breath clouds the air. You crouch behind the rocks at the valley's edge, heart pounding. Not from fear, from focus. They enter the trap slowly, a few at first, then more. And when the moment comes, you rise. Not with panic, not with fury, but with precision. The spears fly. The fire is lit behind them. The bison turn, but too late. 3 fall into the trenches. 2 are wounded. 1 charges and is brought down by a spear through the eye. The rest scatter into the trees. You approach with care. There is groaning, thrashing. The ground is soaked dark where the blood runs. The wounded bison try to rise. You finish it swiftly, not cruelly, cleanly. When the silence returns, it is not empty. It is full of breath, of awe, of gratitude. You stand among the bodies, the steam rising like spirits from the wounds, and you feel it again, that quiet certainty. We were not meant to be the strongest, only the most enduring. The camp feasts for days. The hides are stretched, the sinew stripped and braided, the horns shaped into tools, even the teeth are taken, threaded into cords, given as gifts. The children play among the ribs, laughing, striking them with sticks until they make sound like drums. That night you tell the story, but not with words, with your hands. You paint. On the wall of a stone overhang near the stream, you begin with the valley, a curve of ochre. Then the herd, brown bodies with thick shoulders, black marks for eyes. You use your fingers for the spears, red for the blood, white for the breath, a line of dots to show the hunters moving, a spiral for the fire. The others gather behind you. No one interrupts. Even the wind stays still. When you finish, someone places a handprint beside it, then another, then yours. It is more than a painting. It is proof that you were here, that this happened. That memory can live longer than the body. And this is what begins to haunt you in the best way. The thought that maybe, just maybe, someone will come after. Someone will see the bones you stacked, the symbols you carved, the hunts you mapped in stone. Someone will touch the painted wall and whisper, "They were here." And that whisper, that moment is worth more than the kill itself. You return to the valley days later, long after the bodies are gone. Grass has begun to grow again. Birds move between the trees. The wind carries the smell of rain. You kneel where the bison fell. You close your eyes. You see the entire hunt unfold again, not as fear, not as blood, but as rhythm, a pattern, a shape you helped form, and in that shape you find something strange. Not pride, not power, but peace, because now you understand. The hunt was never just about survival. It was about learning how to belong to a world that does not care if you live or die, and learning how to care for each other anyway. You wake to birdsong, not the shrill warning cries of winter scavengers, but something lighter, sweeter. It drifts through the trees like smoke without fire. The sky is pale, not grey. The earth smells of wet bark and growing things. The cold has not gone, but it has loosened. And the world feels new. You step outside the shelter and stretch. The air fills your chest like a gift. You hear laughter nearby, children chasing each other between the trees, leaping over old fire pits and half-buried bones. One of them carries a stick shaped like a spear. Another shouts something about mammoths and falls dramatically into the grass. They are not afraid, they know the stories. They know how close death once stood, but to them it is already history. This is what you helped build, not just survival, continuity, the memory you've carried, the pain, the hunger, the fear. It has not vanished, but it has changed shape. It lives now in the games of children, in the markings on stone, in the curve of the spears they train with. It has become inheritance. You walk down to the river. The water is louder than before, rushing fast and high with melt. You crouch beside it and watch your reflection flicker on the surface, older now. Your face lined not just from seasons, but from thought. You touch the scar on your hand, the one you got from the first fire hunt, and smile. Everything has cost something, but what you've gained weighs more. Your brother joins you. He sits without speaking, tossing small pebbles into the current, one after the other. You watch them disappear beneath the surface, carried off towards some place you'll never see. He looks at you, and you both know, soon someone will have to go farther. You can't stay here forever. The herds change, the land changes. People grow, and the shelter begins to crowd. Already, small camps have sprung near the edges of the old circle. Cousins, friends, lovers drifting slightly apart. Not from anger, but from the slow gravity of expansion. And someone has to go ahead, to find the new paths, the new valleys, the new rivers that still run unseen beyond the hills. You volunteer, not with ceremony, not with words, but with motion. You begin to gather things, cords, flints, dried meat, a hide to sleep beneath. The others see, they understand. Some offer you tools, others give only a hand pressed to your chest. That is enough. The girl who once drew in the snow runs to you with a gift, a small piece of bark pressed with red clay into the shape of a bison. You take it, and promise to return. The morning you leave is quiet. You do not say goodbye to everyone. Some are still sleeping, some simply watch from a distance. Your brother walks with you as far as the ridge. There you pause. The valley spreads out behind you, dotted with smoke from small fires, the river gleaming like a stretched string of sky. You stand together for a while. He hands you a stone blade wrapped in sinew. You hand him the bison charm, and then you turn toward the unknown. The land ahead is open, raw, unspeaking, but you are not the same as you once were. You carry tools, you carry fire, You carry story, and you carry the shapes of things no one else has seen. Shapes of memory, shapes of possibility. You follow the edge of the river for days. It guides you like an old friend. At night, you sleep beneath the stars and listen to the wind moving through grass. Sometimes it sounds like breathing, sometimes like voices just beyond the edge of hearing. You pass old paths marked by stone piles and faded prints. Other people have come this way, or maybe they left these marks for someone like you. You leave marks of your own, a carved line in a tree, a circle of stones beside a spring. Not in case you return, in case someone follows, and they will. Because the world is vast and there is more to know, more to hunt, more to remember. You come to a place where the forest ends. A broad field rolls out before you, dotted with unfamiliar trees. The soil is darker. The wind smells like something new, spiced, rich, strange. You kneel, you touch the ground, you close your eyes, and you whisper. Not a prayer, not a promise. Just breath, given to the earth, as your people have done since the first fire was born. You rise and begin again. The wind still moves across the old plains. Even now, thousands of seasons later, it bends the same grasses, smooths the same stones, whispers through the trees like it did when the first of your kind stood, barefoot and wide-eyed, watching the herd drift across the horizon. The world remembers. It remembers in the bones buried deep beneath the soil, in the charcoal lines drawn on the walls of forgotten caves, in the quiet grooves pressed into old riverbanks where the hunters once knelt. The world keeps the marks you left behind, even when the names are gone, even when the voices fall silent. And you, watching now, listening, are proof that none of it vanished, that somewhere inside your own skin, beneath the hum of your modern world, that same blood still flows, the same instincts, the same awe, the same quiet question every hunter once carried. How do we survive? And deeper still, what does it mean to live? You come from those people, from the ones who stood small beneath enormous skies and dared to chase giants, who learned not only to throw and cut and bleed, but to wait, to observe, to whisper stories to the stars and trace meaning in the shape of tracks. You come from those who did not just endure the world, but shaped it. You were not born in a vacuum of tools and words. You are the outcome of fire in the snow, of teeth pressed into frozen meat, of laughter in dark shelters, of memory layered and passed like breath from mouth to mouth. Your ancestors were not savages. They were strategists, architects of survival, gentle when they could be, brutal when they had to be, human before the word existed. And when you sit still enough, long enough, you can still feel them, in the rhythm of your breath, in the weight of your hands, in the dreams that come unbidden, dreams of wide spaces, of distant shapes, of running without end. There is no line between then and now, only distance. But distance can be crossed, because every step they took led here. Every risk, every wound, every whispered plan around the fire, they all carried forward, until one day the stone became a spear, the spear became a memory, and the memory became you. So if the world ever feels too loud, too fast, too far from the soil, remember this: you were once small, you were once cold, you were once afraid, but you learned, you endured, you found the edge of the map and walked past it, and in doing so, you lit the first spark that would one day become the whole story. It still burns.